All right. All right. Let's get in here. Super looking hairdo, but we're gonna roll with it because we're live already, and it's not that big a deal anyway. Let's give it a moment. Let's see if we're gonna have some people tune in. What is going on? I appreciate you coming on. We're gonna get going into the show in a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, as you tune in, let me know if you're an athlete watching this. Let me know anything that you're struggling with right now, anything that you'd like to dig into a little bit more on the show. Today, we're talking about a very important question. When you're training, are you improving your performance or are you struggling your ego? And this is something that I think a lot of you guys need to hear. A lot of you guys need to be better at asking yourselves. And we're going to get into that on the show. Are you actually improving performance or are you just stroking your ego? And we're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. But in the meantime, athletes, as you tune in, drop me a comment and let me know first what sport you're actually training for. And second, what you are struggling with right now, what you can benefit from learning more about, what you can benefit from hearing more about. The more of that I get from you, the better and better and better I can help. I can make sure that this podcast is serving you specifically. And because that is our goal with this show, that is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to reach athletes. I'm trying to help athletes reach the next level of themselves in a sport. And the best way that I do that is hearing from you. So let's hear it in the comments. Drop me what sport you're competing in and what you are looking to learn more about. What are you struggling with right now? What do you need to learn more about? And let's get into it. Doing Muay Thai and wanting more muscle mass. I challenge you on that one. Why? Why do you want more muscle mass for Muay Thai? Where do you feel like that's going to actually help you? Because a lot of athletes, again, they struggle with that because they think that, the bigger and stronger I am, the better, which to an extent is true, but there's to an extent where just putting on muscle isn't actually going to serve you. So there's two sides to that coin. So I would challenge you to answer that question. Why do you feel you need more muscle? Where do you feel you're struggling due to lack of muscle? And then if that continues to be a struggle for you, that is definitely something that we can start addressing a little bit more. All right, but let's get into the show now. So like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be asking a very important question today. Are you improving performance in your sport or are you just stroking your ego? So let's get into the show in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are asking a very important question. Is your training actually improving your performance in sport, or are you just stroking your ego? Now, what brought this topic to my attention is actually a post I made yesterday on TikTok where I talked about how focusing on being the hardest worker in the room is not the most effective way to train for a sport. Now, I know what you're thinking as soon as you hear that, going, oh my God, he's telling us not to work hard. And no, I'm not telling you not to work hard. That was actually in the caption. Disclaimer, this is not me telling you not to work hard. Yet still the first few comments on the post were about how, well, if I put in 10 hours of work and you put in 3 hours of work, then I'm going to be better than you are because I put in more work, blah, 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 blah. And as much as, yes, on the surface, I understand why you might think that, today we're going to be talking about why that isn't true. So let's address that in the first place. People talking about simply working more being the most effective way to train for sport. Because I understand, again, on the surface that if you put more hours into something than someone else, you should be further along than them. Because let's break that phrase down. Let's break that thought down. So if I put in more hours than you, that means I'm going to be better prepared. So what this actually means and where this actually does ring true is that if we are both training for something and I become better prepared than you are, I'm likely going to win that competition. If I'm putting in the right hours, if I'm putting in the right time, if I'm doing the right things and I'm doing it more consistently than you are, yes, I'm probably going to win that competition. If you're going to the gym inconsistently, you're not strength training, you're not really taking your sport, like your training for your sport that seriously, the chances are I'm going to win the competition if I'm training consistently. But let's break down where that phrase goes wrong and where I believe that many of you out there have taken that phrase too literally and now have ended up actually hurting yourself by focusing on training more. Where that phrase goes wrong and where people often struggle is they feel like the only thing that matters is the hours that you put in. Yes, it is important to put in a lot of hours. Yes, it is important to train hard. But there's one thing that you're missing that is much more important than the amount of hours you put in. One thing you're missing that is much more important than just training hard. And that is the quality of those hours. And I'm going to say that again because you need to hear it. That is the quality of those hours. If you are putting in 10 hours into the wrong shit, and I'm putting 3 effective hours of training in, even though you put in over triple the hours, I'm going to win. I hate to break it to you, that's just how that works. The training you're doing needs to be effective. And I'm going to break this down with an example from an athlete that I work with. I remember this particular athlete when we started working together. In our initial consultation, in our initial time sitting down, he mentioned to me that every Friday night he goes for a 3-hour run. This is an MMA fighter. Every Friday night he goes for a 3-hour run. And I asked him why. He said, well, I want to show everybody that I work harder than they do. I said, okay, let me ask you this. When was the last time you had a 3-hour fight? He said, well, never. It's like, okay. Why is going for 3-hour runs going to be important? And the truth is, going for a 3-hour run, although it might be very difficult to do, and although you're going to hurt the next day, and although you've trained really hard, et cetera, not an effective way to train for an amateur MMA fight, which is 3-minute rounds. Let me say that again. A 3-hour run is not an effective way to train for a 9-minute fight. Even though it's really hard, even though it's a lot of hours, even though that means you put in more time than I put in, that time that you're putting in is not benefiting you in terms of the performance in the sport. So, as an example, go off of these people that commented on that post saying, if I put in 10 hours and you put in 3 hours, that means I'm going to beat you. If you put in a 3-hour run and in that same amount of time, I go and I train skills for an hour and a half, or I go and I train an hour of skills and an hour of strength training built around performing for the sport of mixed martial arts, now, who do you think wins that fight? The guy who ran for 3 hours and hurts like shit because running for 3 hours is really hard to do? Or the guy who trained his skills, the guy who built some strength, and then the guy who went and recovered for an extra 30 to 45 minutes. So in less time, I did more effective work specific to the goal of the training. Does that make sense? If you're here right now and that makes sense to you and you're understanding what I'm saying, drop a comment and let me know that you're with me. Because again, whenever I post something like that and I get these idiots telling me hard work wins out always, they're completely missing the message. You're not understanding that I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm saying the hard work has to make sense. The hard work has to make sense. That shouldn't be that difficult of a thing for you to understand. So, for all of you out there that currently are just focused on adding up the hours, saying, I did X amount of hours and they did this amount of hours, so who wins out? Understand that you need to focus on more than just the amount of hours that you're training. Because if you're training for something that is, as an example, the amateur MMA fight, like I mentioned, if you're training for something that is 9 minutes long, no, that does not mean you only have to train in bouts of 9 minutes, but putting in 3 hours into just running is not specific to the sport, is a ton of hours, is going to be very difficult to recover from. And if you're doing that consistently over time, what starts to happen is your body starts to burn out. you start to experience these nagging aches and pains. If you're an athlete right now and you've got a nagging ache or pain somewhere in your body, something that just isn't injured but just won't quite go away, drop a comment and tell me, because again, that's something that so many athletes deal with, but we want to just work through because, I'm tough and I've got to put the hours in. Whereas that's your body warning you that something's wrong. That's your body telling you something's wrong here and you need to address it. So if you're that guy who's just adding up the hours and saying, as long as I do more hours than that guy, then I'm going to win, and you're dealing with those nagging aches and pains, and you're putting in all of that time into these things that aren't specific to the sport, that are really difficult to do, so you're going to be sore for days afterwards, and in those days afterwards, your skills training isn't going to be as effective because you're so sore. Now, are you starting to see how the guy who's putting in less hours might actually win out? Because if in that time you're actually taking proper time to recover, build the strength through your joints that you need, and allow your muscles to recover when they actually need to recover and not just putting in an extra day. Now, when you competition, even though you put in less hours, you're going to be better recovered. Not only are you going to be better recovered, but you're going to be stronger, you're going to be faster, your body's going to be healthier than the guy who's just grinding for the sake of grinding. And in exchange, you're going to be in better shape for that competition. You're going to be in better shape. And because you're in better shape, obviously the skills play a factor, but if you're in better shape, even if the other guy is a little bit more skilled than you are, if you're in better shape, your body's holding up better, you're faster, you're stronger, you're more explosive, you can beat them to the punch, you can beat them to each move that they're making, you can nullify that skill set by being a better athlete. You can nullify that skill set by being a better athlete. And again, I know that a lot of people are going to hear that and say, oh, is he saying that skills aren't important? No. I hear so much of that crap. No, I'm not sitting here saying you do not need to train your skills to be good at a sport. What I'm saying is that skills are one part of the equation. Because if you are a very, very skilled athlete, but you're slow, you're not well conditioned, and your body's not holding up for yourself, now you're missing something. You're missing the athleticism you need to compete at the highest level. Because part of being prepared for competition is your body being healthy. Part of being prepared for competition is your body being healthy, is you being well recovered, is you not being injured. And if you're able to accomplish that, you're able to get into competition healthy, now you can perform at a higher level. And if you can perform at a higher level, you can be more successful. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Because this is something, again, that so many of you need to understand. So many of you need to understand that number of hours put in does not equal success. But let's break that down in one other way. If you're here right now and you're saying and you're thinking, the only thing that matters is how many hours I put in. The only thing that matters is, purely the amount of time I spend in the gym. I want you to ask yourself one question. Why? Ask yourself, why am I doing this exercise? Why am I doing this drill? Why am I in the gym for this many hours? And every time you ask yourself that question, answer it. Because again, if you're going for a 3-hour run and you're saying, why am I going for this 3-hour run? And your answer is because I want to show everyone that I work harder than they do. Right away, you can see, back to the title of this episode, you can see that you're training for your ego, not training for performance. Because if your answer to the question why is, I want to show you, immediately when you're saying you, now you're showing yourself that you're not doing this for yourself. You're not doing this for your performance. You're doing this to show you, whoever that you is, whether it be your opponent, training partners, whatever, that I work harder than you do. And again, it is a very good thing and very important thing to work hard. But every time you ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? Why am I focusing my time in this area? Why am I doing this exercise? Why am I here for this many hours? Why am I doing this drill? If the answer is because I'm trying to show you, you're missing out. Because again, your focus needs to be on performing. Your focus needs to be, I'm this because this is going to help me in insert area of the performance here. And if that's not your answer, you're doing it wrong. Okay? Because again, I hear so many people, yeah, I'm lifting this heavy because I want to show you that I'm stronger than you are. But again, unless you're a power lifter, the weight bar is not your focus. I'm going for that 3-hour run because I want to show you that I'm willing to do the things that you're not willing to do. Again, if your focus is on you, then you're doing something wrong. If your focus is on me, how this is going to help me, now you're doing it the right way. Now your mind is in the right place. Now you're going to see massive improvements in your performance because the focus of your training is improving performance. And let's take that same view into a recovery day. So many athletes out there don't want to take recovery days because they feel like they're taking a step back. If you're here right now and you feel that, drop me a comment, let me know. Because I know there are tons of you out there that don't like taking the recovery days. Because if you take the recovery days, you feel like you're taking a step back, you feel like you're not improving. And if you feel like you're not improving, then you feel like your opponent is improving when you're not. So if you resonate with that, if you feel like that's you don't like taking recovery days because you feel like you're taking a step back instead of forward, drop a comment and let me know. But let's take that view into recovery days. So many people don't want to take them because it feels like a step back. But again, why does it feel like a step back? It feels like a step back because you're looking and you're saying, my opponent might be working right now. Again, your focus is on them. Your focus isn't on you. Whereas if you flip the script and you say, I'm taking this recovery day because my body is exhausted, my shoulders are beat up, my head doesn't feel great, so that I can refuel, recharge, and crush another great week of training. Now, your focus is on performance. Your focus is on yourself. And when your focus is on yourself, you step forward. When your focus is on yourself, you perform better. Does that all make sense? So, overarching summary, I know I got heated for a minute there, but overarching summary of this episode, overarching summary of what I want you to take away from this is that when I ask the question, are you improving performance or just stroking your ego? I need you to ask yourself one question with everything you do. Am I doing this for myself or am I doing this for others? So the better way to ask that is, why am I doing this? When you're going for that 3-hour run, are you doing that to show everyone how hard you work, or are you doing that because it's going to benefit your performance in your 9-minute MMA fight? When you're pushing for that deadlift personal best and you're screaming and grunting and all that crap in the gym, are you pushing for that personal best because I need a 500-pound deadlift for my MMA fight? Or are you pushing for that personal best so that you can post a video on Instagram and show everybody how fucking strong you are? Right? Are you getting where I'm coming from? Always asking the question, why? Why am I doing this is going to show you, am I doing this because it's going to benefit me in my performance? Or am I doing this so that I can show everyone how tough I am? I can show everyone how great I am. I can show everyone that I work harder than they do, that I'm willing to do the shit they're not willing to do, which in the end hurts you more than it helps you. So that is it. That is all. Thank you for tuning into the show today. I appreciate you taking the time. Again, the goal of this show is to reach athletes. The goal of the show is to help athletes reach the next level of themselves in sport, reach the next level in their careers. And the way we reach more athletes is simply by you sharing the show with a teammate, sharing the show with a friend, sharing the show with somebody that needs to hear this message. So if you're here on the live stream right now, you can find it at www.elitedevelopmentpodcast.ca or on any major podcast platforms. If you are not here on the live stream and you are listening back to this on the podcast, make sure that you are sharing the show with a friend, sharing the show with a teammate, even just posting it up and tagging me in your stories on social media. I always appreciate this. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I'll talk to you all again very soon.